Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odesa. We continue for today, and our third briefing today is dedicated to presenting a report of the Coordination Humanitarian Headquarters of the Odesa region, and also the details about Volunteer Mission 2.0. And we are having with us the head of the headquarters, Oleksiy Chornyi. Good afternoon, everyone. And traditionally, every month, with the support of Media Center Ukraine Odesa, we report about our activities. And today I'm going to share information about February. Now I would like to show our presentation. First of all, I would like to thank mass media, both regional and international, that continue covering our activities every month, including such TV channels as Kruk, Odesa Live, Grad, etc. And we're also thankful to mass media for inviting representatives of our headquarters to their programs for us to be able to communicate the issues we are facing and also to inform the population of Odesa Oblast about the opportunities there in this area and also about everyday activities. As for the number of our volunteers and employees, we have 86 volunteers and 20 employees that have been employed to the municipal institution, but still we have volunteers who support activities both at our office and warehouses. The hotline continues its operation. We receive information about activities of different institutions, municipal institutions. We used to receive information about the lack of power supply, but in February the amount of such claims, such calls decreased, witnessing the improved situation.
Переміщених осіб.
We also have a special hotline for IDPs and a special hotline for the military. We collect information and provide this information to Operative Command South. As for humanitarian aid, in February, we received 685 pallets, including 432 pallets for food products, 22 pallets for children goods, personal hygiene items and household goods, and also 231 pallets with clothes, textiles, and other types of goods. The monthly amount of the humanitarian aid received is more or less the same, and the general amount is more than 500 pallets. But we expect a decrease in spring because the humanitarian aid that we have received already covered winter items. That's why we expect the decrease starting from March. There is an important project, which is the volunteer mission, volunteer landing 2.0, that involved representatives of our headquarters and our other organizations. We announced it last month, and on the 21st of February we started the project, encompassing volunteers from Odesa Oblast. And unfortunately, on that day, Russians once again shelled Kherson, killing 6 persons. This means that our volunteers are also under the threat, but they are well aware of this. We also have representatives from Odesa, Kyiv, Lviv, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson Oblasts. The total amount is 21 1 volunteers, but we have received more than 30 applications. Some volunteers come to Kherson for 1 month, others for 2 weeks. So the period is different, and they can also choose the area of responsibilities which are closer to them. On the 21st of February, we had meeting with representatives of local administrations and also the newly appointed head of regional administration. We have discussed the most urgent issues for our work, and we also provided this information to our volunteers for them to be able to cooperate with representatives of the municipal and regional administration. That day, we also provided 500 armored vests for the police, provided by the American organization Ukraine Rises, that can protect those representatives of municipal services who will get these armored vests and who now help to clear debris, who repair power, water supply lines, and also other services. On the 21st of February, we provided 100 armor vests for the representatives of different municipal services in the city and in Oblast, thus starting the volunteer mission 2.0. We have already certain results that we can share. First type of activities is clearance of debris and also the covering roofs. We also provide aid to settlements outside the city, like Posad Pokrovsky. And together with their colleagues from the Volunteer Construction Battalion, they help to clear debris there as well. The mission also disseminates humanitarian aid to the population in need. These activities include unloading, packing, recording, etc. Unfortunately, they are the cases when during dissemination of humanitarian aid, Russia starts shelling, so we know that someone provides information about the places of the provision of humanitarian aid. Thanks God, no one has been injured or killed so far, but we expect that the situation could become worse because there are enemy's agents on the territory of Kherson city and Kherson Oblast sharing this information with our enemy. So the enemy targeted civilians, and those people who are still there in the city, the amount of them is around 600,000 people. We also provide information to the population. The evacuation is ongoing. We support that people seeing the damages and the amount of killed persons will finally decide to evacuate to the oblasts that are ready to accommodate them. So our mission, volunteer mission, is ongoing. Every day we're in contact with our volunteers, and I would like to remind that if you want to join the mission, we are now in need of power supply and engineers, the drivers of special vehicles like excavators to clear debris. We will provide accommodation, food, logistics, and the means of protection, including armored vests and all other things like batteries, power banks, first aid kits. Those volunteers who have already joined the mission, they are already in Kherson, and they have everything they need. And our coordination humanitarian headquarters provided almost all items needed. The next topic, the next project, which we implemented in February, we disseminated aid from IREX organization, which is under the USAID. We got aid to the amount of almost 3,600,000 hryvnias for shelters accommodating people, including beds, bed linen, lamps, mattresses, heaters, kettles, power banks, and also 23 generators. We equally disseminated this aid in all areas of Odesa Oblast. And this month, we have already provided a report. The representatives of this organization could closely monitor in real time the provision of such aid, so they could monitor the dissemination process, the signing of the documents, and they also get photo reports. We're very thankful to IREX. We're thankful to all organizations that continue to support us. Unfortunately, the number of such organizations has been gradually decreasing. And we believe that we should every time thank all of them and to provide information about the volume of aid, because on this depends the future supplies. We also had a meeting where we discussed the needs of local communities. The representatives of the communities were able to meet with the international organizations, and we also collected information about the needs. We prepared the accompanying materials. We have now more than 30 different types of international organizations who cover different areas. That was quite an extensive 2-hour meeting where we discussed in details needs of individual communities and individual districts, sharing information about the types of goods and the focus needed. We believe that this is a good practice when communities can directly cooperate with such organizations, but to coordinate these activities, we ask them to inform headquarters about the results of the work for us to understand who received humanitarian aid, to provide humanitarian aid equally to all communities in line with the needs of the vulnerable population residing in these communities. International Organization for Migration also visited us, and they provided 5,000 kits of bed linen in January and February. We have provided these sets to the beneficiaries in Odesa Oblast, including towers, buckets, cutlery, etc. We have only started our cooperation with the International Organization for Migration, and during their mission, we discussed their needs and also the possibility of the representatives of the IOM to monitor the dissemination process, which we successfully completed. And there was one more interesting meeting for our representatives, for our organization, with the representative Dutch organization Spark, Yannick Dupont, who represented that organization. And this organization is quite interesting because it boosts development of businesses in the areas affected by war. And we are very interested in this topic. We started dealing with it last year. We have taken a lot of efforts to discuss these issues with different stakeholders, but unfortunately we were not successful back then. But we were surprised to learn that there is a specialized organization. And we speak here about employment, providing jobs, boosting the development of business, not only after the end of the war, but during the war. This organization successfully worked in Yugoslavia, and back then this organization was able to find jobs for people. So we met with the representative of the organization, we exchanged contacts, ideas, projects, and we hope that in the future we will be able to inform you about specific events and steps taken together with this organization. We traditionally continue receiving aid from the World Food Program. And sometimes the amount decreases. In February, we received 30,000 of food packages. This month, we will get 20,000, and we equally disseminate such packages between different communities, taking into consideration the number of local population affected by the war, the amount of IDPs, and the capacity of an individual community, namely the budget, additional resources, etc. Whether communities are able to buy some products, some items by themselves. The program, the joint food package, envisages grain, sunflower oil, pasta, oat, cereals, etc. And territorial communities can add what they need, what they want to such packages. Some of them really are very responsible for their work, but others, unfortunately, not. That's why we ask all local residents to call us to inform if they're able to get food packages in their communities, what specifically they are provided with, and how they can get such aid, etc. We recommend for communities to provide such items both to local residents and IDPs. But the communities usually define the vulnerable population whom they provide aid at first place. And by the end of this report, I will provide you with the contacts of our call centers for everyone to be able to inform about the situation at the spot. We also cooperate with one more UN agency, namely UNICEF, that for the last month have provided 2,002 packs of winter clothes. But unfortunately, the winter is almost over here. That's why we offered parents to take clothes 1-2 size bigger than their children, for them to be able to wear these clothes the next year and in the future. During last month, we have disseminated 500 heaters and 200 boilers. This is yet another consignment of boilers. The previous consignment was received during last years. So we provided this equipment to municipal services and local authorities. We have also projects supporting animals. For example, our headquarters provided support to such settlements, towns as Posad Pokrovsky, Antonievka in Kherson Oblast, and I would like to thank for the coordination our representatives Dmitry Morozov and Maya Blazheyevska. So as for vehicles, now we use wagons. Unfortunately, there are the cases of stealing on the railroad. We have informed Ukrzaliznytsia about this, and we believe that this is an act of looting. The investigation is ongoing, and we hope that all responsible will be brought to responsibility. So if there are logistics companies who are ready to support us with a vehicle for us to be able to directly supply humanitarian aid to different districts, areas, and communities, we'll be very thankful to such companies, because we have been facing difficulties with this issue. I can also provide you statistics about what we have on our warehouses. This is more than 1,000 pallets, and we are going to start inventory this month. We have 1,153 pallets with food products, 209 pallets with children clothes, personal hygiene items, and household goods, and 519 pallets with clothes. As for IDPs, as of now, 143,527 persons, including 4,440 children and 5,373 persons with disabilities. Unfortunately, this is only approximate numbers because people sometimes leave the region, leave oblast without informing the proper services about it. That's why we always ask the communities to provide more precise data for us to be able to disseminate humanitarian aid properly. Last month, we were able to support more than 100,000 people. This is much bigger number comparing to January. And you can see that the biggest amount of people are in Odesa rayon. And around half of humanitarian aid provided to the whole oblast is given to our city. As for food kits, food packages, in February we disseminated these kits that were bought by the state through the public procurement. We also provided such packages to different rayons and communities of Odesa Oblast according to the amount of people affected by war. And you can also find infographics in this report. We have a whole range of other interesting projects. I would like to briefly cover them. We have the Adaptation Center for IDPs that organizes a lot of events, both for children and for adults, including tours to theaters, museums, and other landmarks of the city. We also plan to start projects covering employment of such people and mental support. That's why we hope that our new partner, the Dutch organization, will support us with this. There was quite an interesting project, the angel fabrics that we implemented with our kids, and actually kids made angels by themselves, and we add them to the first aid kits that we supplied to the front line. We also organize different performances, and we also provide our premises free of charge for other organizations to organize performances for children. There is one more project dedicated to Ukrainian language. It was dedicated to the National Day of Ukrainian Language, where Taras Kreming, the ombudsman on Ukrainian language, participated in this event. We have a language speaking club for people to speak Ukrainian, to increase how they master, to increase the assurance that they can speak Ukrainian language properly, because some people somehow embarrassed speaking Ukrainian, believing that they are not well at it, but I don't think that it's so. And we also organize a celebration of birthdays for children. I would like to thank Oksana Kuznetsova and Lilia Pekalova, who are involved in this organizing these projects, which are useful for children and IDPs. We also supported our military, including 20 generators that we received from a commercial entity. We also supplied socks to them, and we have been discussing the support of two battalions, rifle battalions and assault guard, which have been created in Odesa Oblast. The assault guard is being formed basing on the police units. So we are ready to provide winter clothes, torches, power banks, food, pets, etc. This is briefly about our activity. Of course, I can share much more details, but I think that if we have questions from our journalists, it would be better to answer the questions. I have a question. Do you know why was Viktor Tkachuk detained, and can this affect the work of humanitarian headquarters? I've learned about this from the news, and our position is the same starting from April. When I became the head of the humanitarian headquarters. We believe that all persons involved in corruption shall be brought to responsibility. I believe that corruption during war is just acts of looting. So if there is evidence, and if the law enforcement bodies believe that the head of the regional military administration should be detained and brought to liability, this should be done. And this is true for all other officials who are involved in illegal activities. Was this person involved in providing humanitarian aid? We have been cooperating with almost all deputy heads of regional administration. Igor Nikolaevich was in charge of humanitarian issues. That's why we cooperated with him when it came to IDPs, social protection, etc. When it comes to dissemination of humanitarian aid, this is done at our meetings with the representatives of the regional military administration. At least 20 persons attend such meetings. That's why this information is publicly available. It can't be done otherwise. We also agree and advise the amounts that we can provide with beneficiaries, and beneficiaries can apply for humanitarian aid in almost 90% of cases. We have in our headquarters representatives from IDP department, Mikheeva Katerina. We have representative of the Economics Directorate and Healthcare Department. So these are three officials who almost always attend our meetings, so they can share their ideas. But other members are volunteers. The employees of your municipal institution, no, not all of them have been employed. Not all of them wanted to be employed due to different reasons. Whereas there are still people like who are like volunteers. But Tkachuk was responsible for organizing humanitarian activities. He's the deputy head on humanitarian issues, covering such topics as healthcare, educational, social protection, and the Children Protection Service. He was in charge of these entities. Good afternoon, Olena Solomonova, Odesa Online. How you can check the supply of humanitarian aid to communities? The supply of humanitarian aid could not be done without signing the specific certificate of handing over such humanitarian aid. So beneficiary should, in all cases, sign the document. And sometimes beneficiaries can take humanitarian aid from our warehouse directly. If these are remote areas, then we can supply this cargo, this aid through Ukrainian railways. We used to have trucks to supply humanitarian aid directly, but now we have to use wagons of Ukrzaliznytsia. Of course, we control and monitor every supply, and we have a list of beneficiaries that somehow do not take the humanitarian aid allocated for them. Sometimes it takes more than 1 month for them to get this support, this humanitarian aid. So we have information for every consignment. The next question, please. Anatoly Kosin, Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. There are rumors now that the support from humanitarian organization will not be in the forms of items, but will be in the form of money. If it's really so, is there any mechanism for disseminating this financial support? It is already there. During the previous year, all those affected by war, including IDPs and locals, could get financial support from international organizations. But first, we need to define the category of beneficiaries, like people with disabilities, single parents, large families, elderly, poor people, if they have the documents to prove this, people with severe diseases, etc. For example, now NRC, Norwegian Refugee Council, plans to provide this support, to provide financial support to people. All the time, we plan, in all cases, we inform our beneficiaries about these possibilities. We believe that it should be done because when it comes to efforts taking for obtaining cargoes for disseminating this humanitarian aid, the efforts are huge, and it is easier to provide financial additional support to vulnerable population. There is the practice of giving vouchers for people to use them to buy all they need in supermarkets, except for cigarettes and alcoholic beverages. We can monitor the situation through the registration of documents, and we can avoid duplication through recording individual taxation number, which is a unique number. And now the Ministry of Social Policy uses the number to control the dissemination of humanitarian aid and to avoid the cases of duplication. The monetary support will improve the situation, will decrease the burden of those who are working in humanitarian area, and this will be more convenient for vulnerable people because they will be able to buy what they need and when they need. Do you have any information about the amount of aid provided by Norwegian Consul? There is the fixed amount. It has not been changed. It's around 6,600 hryvnias. But different organizations provide this monetary support during 3 months or once per period. There is a question. Good afternoon, Krug TV company. And you can see that you work a lot with children coming from the combat zone. Can you share with us what changes you can observe in the mental state of children? The children perhaps suffer the most because the social connections are broken, they don't see their friends, and the teenagers are affected the most. So they don't have friends anymore, they have to stay at home because of the online education now. That's why it is very important to organize all types of creative, physical, and other types of events for children are useful and important. I can't say the situation has significantly improved because still we need venues to organize such events for children. We know that a lot of parents of the internally displaced children cannot go and work because there is online school, kindergartens are closed. That's why they need to stay with their children at home. We now are in negotiation with UNICEF about the possibility of expanding their support. This organization focuses on children, and it has significant possibilities for us to cover some additional territories of our oblast to improve mental health of our children. Thank you. Thank you for the briefing. See you in 1 month with the next report. Please stay tuned and see you next week.